Alright, well, I know all of us have had a question or didn't know what they were doing at some point, and you ask somebody and they might not have known what they're doing either, but they still try to explain the answer to you, and you end up not knowing what it is. Well, the Bible said, if the blind lead the blind, both shall fall into a ditch. I agree with this quote because if you don't know what you're doing and you ask somebody else who doesn't know what they're doing, then you're not going to get anything accomplished. This is involved with your aspects of your job, your work, and everyday life. Well, at your job in school and everyday life. Well, at your job, if you don't know what you're doing and you're going to ask a supervisor and the supervisor doesn't know what they're doing, well, you guys aren't going to get anything accomplished. It's still going to be the same thing and you're going to fall into a ditch. In school, if you're looking for an answer or if the teacher is teaching you something and they don't know what they're talking about, you're not going to get anything out of it. And in everyday life, let's say you're walking around and you ask for directions from some guy and he doesn't really know where he's going, but he tells you directions anyways. I've done that before. And the guy probably got lost, but I don't know. Well, if you get directions from that guy, you probably will end up going into a ditch, literally. Well, next time you guys ask somebody, make sure the other people know what they're doing so you don't go in it blind.
All right, Matt, I thought that you had a good shared experience to use as your attention device. You had a very clear thesis statement, and although you had a little bit of a trouble with the preview, you finally got it out there and set up what the contents were going to be. So the introduction, everything's good and solid there. When you get to the content, it's a little bit problematic because basically you just kind of say, the job, if you don't know what you're doing, it's going to be a problem. And that's about as much as there is there. You're going to... I always tell people this, everybody gives a better speech in the car on the way home after class. You're going to think of that, something that happened at work one time, and say, oh, I could have used that example. I should have talked about, the time that, the guy who was the lead on my team told me to do it this way, and it was completely wrong, and we had, we spent 2 days trying to fix that mess. And the same thing at school, you're going to say, I had that crazy English teacher who told me this is how you're supposed to cite material. I spent a semester learning all of that, and then I get to my next class, and they don't like anything that I'm doing here. I said, well, wait a second, this is the way they told me to do it, and you're doing it wrong. And I'm going, I don't get it, And I mean, that's the kind of stuff that you need to get into the speech to make it more interesting. Otherwise, it's just kind of a repetition of what the preview points are. You need some additional explanation. On the presentation things, I think your voice is pretty easy to listen to and you project reasonably well. I thought there was a good rhythm to the speech. You have some indicators while you're speaking, some gesture things that you're doing. Your facial expressions are fine, although I do think that sometimes when you're looking at the audience, whenever you get stuck for a second, you kind of look off and just are disengaging for a moment or two. It's not a long presentation. It's 1 minute and 40 seconds, 1 minute 38 seconds, somewhere in there. So we don't really get much time to connect with you since it's so condensed in what you're trying to do. Maybe a little more foot movement than you want to have. I thought there was a pretty good summary at the end of the speech to make your point. So there's some good things about the presentation. Just need to fill it up a bit more. All right. Thank you.